So, well, my first thing that I wanted to ask about is the theme of the show seems to be revolve around fathers. And there always seems to be something going, not just with the angel dynamic, but also with the characters themselves. You have David and Will, you have Claire and General. So it just Jeep and Alex. There just seems to be a lot of that. Can you go into a little bit more about that dynamic in the show?
You know, it's funny, when I wrote it and when I kind of brainstormed the whole show, I didn't really realize that was the theme, even though, as you said, it is everywhere. And what I realized was it really is. It's about absentee fathers and the effects. That even like David and William, he's not an absentee father, but he is emotionally, right? So even that has that fallout. I lost my own dad when I was 20, and I think it, obviously really impacted me, but I didn't really realize until I did this show kind of how much. So it threads through everything, and for me, kind of thematically, it informs the character so much. It allows us to see kind of like what the effects are of that, and it's obviously maybe me working out my own stuff, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry. I had someone asked me. I asked through Twitter, and I responded to you on Twitter. I asked for Twitter what the questions would be if anybody had questions for Dominion, and my Twitter feed just blew up. I mean, I cannot believe how popular you guys
That's great.
are. So one of the questions that asked I thought were really cool was, will we see the process of a body being possessed by a lower angel to see that happening?
I think in a second season, maybe not this season.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
Yeah.
And you can see a little bit of it if you in the pilot, the long prologue, the mural that we kind of tracked. You actually see some of the imagery that like at least how it's being imagined by the painter of the mural. But I think it is a really fascinating thing. And certainly, did you see last night's episode?
No, we didn't. We were nine.
That's what we're all here.
Oh, you didn't.
No.
I'm not going to say anything.
Oh, well, you're more than welcome to tell us.
Well, okay. For the end of the season, we've got a couple big things coming up. One of which is someone's not going to make it out alive, one of the main characters. And also Gabriel's coming to Vega.
Wow.
In the flesh.
Wow. That's a big one.
Will you go into the backstory of Vega and how that whole city began and how this whole conflict began? Will that
The conflict or the city?
the city and then the conflict?
The city was really based, it was created out of this kind of horrific situation, which was the extermination war. And General Ryson was really the mastermind of not only fighting the angels and pushing them back, but also building the wall around Vega, establishing the political system and also the V system. He was a brilliant man. He studied Rome. He felt that the history of Caesars and kind of the social structure, the governmental structure, also the military structure kind of was the superlative example of that in history. So he decided to basically reshape that in Vegas. So it isn't just that Caesar's palace has a Caesar living up there. There actually is a Caesar living in Caesar's palace. And so, but a lot of it wasn't really started, it hasn't stayed in the way that it was intended. So in terms of the V system, it was really established to give everybody a job, everybody a ranking. It would allow them to have access to resources. But over time, you have people, at the top kind of gobbling up more of the resources, people at the bottom being left out. And so the system over time has been corrupted, as most of these kind of systems have. And that's a big source of conflict between General Ryson and Claire Ryson, which we see in the series.
The character of Clementine, I think, is genius. Because you think you hate these evil beings, but then you put like literally like a face on them, a body on them, and you feel so sympathetic for them. So will we see more of Clementine?
You will.
Okay.
And last night's episode, a lot more Clementine.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Were you in the room with everybody? I saw on Twitter. I had to get on Twitter real quick. I saw everybody talking about it.
That was my room.
It was your room?
Yeah.
So how was that? How is it to see this? I've been asking everybody the social media reaction to this. You can kind of bypass critics and reviews and get the real fan reaction? How is that?
I had never done Twitter before. I started an account maybe like 3 years ago, and it just sat. I think I maybe had one follower. I forgot about it, and then when we were about to launch the show, the social media arm of UCP and the studio and the network called me and were like, "Will you do this? Will you really get into it or whatever if you want?" I was like, "Absolutely." And I've become like a tweeting maniac.
Oh, yes.
I really love it. I love the interaction. I'm a fan. I geek out over things, so I really appreciate their passion, how interested they are, and how much joy they get from it. I'm just so amazed by that. The fan art. So it's a dream.
Do you get to see the episode before, or are you watching it for the first time as everybody else as well?
Oh no, I'm in post. Yeah, I'm all the way through. So I've seen it. By the time it airs, I've probably seen it 10 times.
Okay.
Yeah.
What? How far along, or how many seasons do you think it's going to take? Do you know how far ahead you're going with your story arc?
I've got about 5 seasons planned out. 3 in absolute detail, 2 more in looser detail. But the show itself could easily go 6-7 seasons in terms of the long arcs of Alex and Michael and Gabriel and Claire.
You're going to see another big Angel War?
Oh yeah, that's a must, right?
Yeah.
You got to spread that out though. That's big. That's big bucks.
Yeah.
That's a bigger budget. We need to get that one down.
We got to save that up. But in terms of, we'll see a lot of conflict and our special effects house is unbelievable in terms of what they deliver. The cityscapes of Vega, the angels, the wings. I mean, it's just for TV. It's crazy.
What was the reasoning behind creating the 8-ball characters?
In terms of why they're called that?
Yeah.
In the movie, in Legion, the eyes are black.
Yeah.
And when I started brainstorming the series, I wanted to have a slang term that people would call them.
Right.
And when you get it, there's something called an 8-ball hemorrhage. And when you get that kind of a hemorrhage, your eyes fill up with blood and they turn black.
Yeah.
So it just made perfect sense that they would just call them 8-balls.
Oh, that's good. That's great.
I feel like I was like, that's good.
You got it.
Thank you.
That was right.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank you
so
guys.
much.
I appreciate it.